I contemplated this talk quite a bit in meditation this week. And it really came down to the idea that there's only one choice that we ever make, and that one choice impacts our lives. And it's a choice between love and the choice between fear. And it really sounds cliche. Well, let's choose love or let's choose fear, because why would we ever choose fear? And yet, I would venture to say that 95% of our life is because we've chosen fear. And we don't even realize that we've chosen fear. We've been so conditioned to thinking things that are not fearful that we remain in fear. So if you only have the choice between those two things, let's examine what that means. So what is the feeling of love? Isn't love a feeling where you're free? Where you're so open and you feel so free about everything, and everything then becomes easy? It's natural, it's expressive, it's without bounds. It gives you great joy, it gives you exuberance. It tickles you. It makes you want to imagine and do more. It's stimulating. It's coming from inside. You don't need anyone else when you're making a decision from this place of love. Would you agree? That seems like love. And yet there's so much more to love than just that. So what is fear? Fear is anything that makes you feel restricted. Anything where you have any form of limitation, anything that you're afraid of, anything that you're stopping from doing because there's a possibility of failure. You see, love doesn't know failure. Why wouldn't love know failure? Well, think about it. Love is what we call God. Love and God are interchangeable words, right? You've heard that. Jesus says, what is God? God is love. Everything is going back and forth between love and God. It's the same thing. Well, in love, you are without limitation, because in love, there can be no judgment. You hear that? If there is love, there is no judgment. If there is no judgment, then there's perfect freedom. There's only fear if there's judgment. There's only fear if there's restriction. And so we live, and I heard this line from Jim Carrey this week. And I got to say it, we have been conditioned to live in fear disguised as practicality. Think about that. We have been conditioned to live in fear because of practicality. In other words, you have to live in the world. Lee, this is what's real. This is what's real, and when someone's telling you what's real and you are restricted and limited by it, it's only real based on the perspective that you're looking at it through. It is not love, because remember, love has no restriction. Why wouldn't love have any restriction? Because in love, knowing the oneness that you are, you cannot die, you are eternal, you are immortal, you've always been, you're all and powerful. How can there be a restriction in that? It's when we tie ourselves to our past, to the parents' views, to society's views, through experiences we've had, that we close down, we restrict ourselves, and we start to suffocate in life. And when we suffocate in life, that's why people are now, instead of being numbed by the practicality of what they're experiencing, they're now going to medicine where they're numbing themselves based on their drugs that they're taking. And when you're numbing yourself from your drugs, you can't possibly see the infinite possibility that is ready for you and that you have the power because your vibration has been artificially toned down. Now, I'm not saying that at times drugs are not good. I'm saying drugs can be a crutch until we can get our thinking clear so that we can rewire the neural pathways in our brain, because science has proven we can rewire our pathways in our brain. And when we start to rewire them and they start to shift, then the dependence on the drug will diminish and we'll get rid of the drug. We've seen this work many times at Agape. I've worked with people where they've been on these drugs and we've gotten them off the drugs and they're fully functioning now without the medicine. But it takes work. That's really the key. People don't understand. We've got in this philosophy of new thought, and when we're in prayer, we go, it's easy and it's effortless. And you know what? People tend to take that serious. And that's a mistake. It's easy, but it requires work. And the thing about it is, here's the thing, let's look at work. Because work is not a bad word. We've only attached meanings to the idea that it's a bad word. But if you're working to be the greatest triathlete in the world, and that juices you so much, you're training for the 6 months doing all that, you're not working, you're in a zone. You're going toward a goal. You realize that the training is part of the process to get you to where you want to be. Well, isn't that what spiritual practice is? Spiritual practice is about getting you into a state of mind where you start living in life and you're experiencing the contrast, and it's not work. People say, well, spiritual practice is work. Well, you know what? If you believe that spiritual practice is work and you don't want to do it, it means that you want to remain a victim. And that's an unconscious belief that you've accepted into your life, and you've been conditioned by society to accept that. Because if you truly want to be the self-empowered person who creates their life and lives their life fully the way you desire to live it, you've got to put the effort in. You've got to say, I'm taking control. I'm going to determine my pattern. It's really fascinating because I listen to other ministers online of various faiths, and we're not being real because we're being too light on people. We're trying to coddle them. We're trying to say, it's okay. It's okay. Come here, depend on me. It's all right. Things happen to you. You know, that's just the way the world is. The fact of the matter is, are they living from the premise of knowing that they're one with God? Are they living from the premise that they know that everyone else is one with God? And if you're one with God, then you're a creative vehicle. You are creating your experience based on the predominant thought that you have. That's the power of thought. It's spoken in the Bible. And the word was, God spoke, and there was light. Jesus spoke, rise, Lazarus. Lazarus rose from the dead. It was always about the word. The word is always the command. And the word is more than just a word. The word is the thought process. It is the energy and is the action associated to it. And when all of that is congruently interlocked with the idea of being in oneness, the demonstration takes place. But what happens is we don't want to let go of the past. Because if we did, we'd let go of it. Can I get more clear about that? You want to hold on to the past, whatever that might be for you, because it is feeding you. Somehow it's giving you attention. Somehow it's attracting attention from others. Somehow it's not allowing, you don't have to face responsibility. But the fact of the matter is, you can stay there and you will be in the same state you are now 20 years from now, or you can say, that is not my truth. I am one with God. I am the individualization of God. And as of this moment, I am claiming my power, and I will not be a victim in any sense, shape, or form from anything ever again in my life. And I want to tell you something, what I've learned really clearly. If you do that, you will not be a popular person. And this was a discussion that I had with my prayer partner over the thing. And we were discussing being in ministry, and we decided that in ministry, the minister's job is to comfort the afflicted. And then the minister's job is to afflict the comfortable. Because you see, if you're too comfortable, you're not growing. And so the idea is, if you ever want to become a practitioner or a minister, it's not about being liked. Can I be more clear? It's about being authentic in the truth that we're one. And sometimes when we're authentic and we're saying that, so a lot of times people come up to me and say, Lee, it's so hard. I'm out into the world, and people don't see these things the way we see it. And I acquiesce and I go a part of it, and I said, well, then you don't understand your power. Well, I want to be liked. Well, guess what? If you're so dependent on being liked, you'll never experience love. Because that's conditional, and that's not love. That's just about people-pleasing. And people-pleasing doesn't go very far because it's an empty pit that can never be filled. Love doesn't judge. I'm coming back to that over and over and over again. Because love, if it judged, would be fear in disguised. Ooh, that's good, isn't it? Love, if it judged, would be fear in disguise. So if you have someone in your life and they say, if you do this, that'll make me happy. Think and decide, is it your highest interest? And then do what's in your highest interest. You don't have to respond to anyone. You don't owe anyone any answer. But what you do owe yourself, what you do owe the world, what you do owe the God present you are, is to be authentic, to be living up to your greatest realization of the power and the truth that you are at this time. Not that you will ever be. You see, if we try to live up to what the almighty image is, we're setting ourselves to become bipolar. Because that's so far above anything that we can imagine that we can't even begin to take a step toward it. We will be paralyzed. But if we can know that that is the goal, and here's the thing, it's an eternal goal. It's forever we're going to be reaching up to realize more. And when we're reaching up forever to realizing more, all we have to realize is that this next step just has to be in that direction. And then if someone pushes us off, and we're off this way, that's okay, because the next step, we go in the direction. You see, so it's a step by step, moment by moment, thought by thought, action by action life. So when we talk about the creative process, we talk about the idea that we must ask. Okay, that's step one. Abraham says that really clearly. Ask. It's more than that. We must decide. We must visualize. We must understand what it is we are and what we want. That's where most of the time, we're not demonstrating things in our lives because we don't know. We've not asked the right questions. We may ask the question, well, if I have this Maserati, that'll make me happy. You ever see some people driving Maseratis? I have. Have you ever seen anyone driving a Ferrari? Most of the time, you're not going to see happy people because they're seeking the multi-dollar vehicle to make them happy. But if you're in the car and you're next to me and my radio happens, or not my radio, I have Pandora on, and I've got AC/DC channel turned on, you're going to see me screaming as I'm driving around. I'm happy because it's the vibration I'm putting out. You see, I've come to understand that the most important thing is, what is the vibration you're excelling, you're putting into the world? Because that's the energy that you are, and the vibration you're putting into the world is the vibration that's emanating through the hundreds of trillions of cells in your body. And when it's that high a vibration, those cells are wanting to be in harmony and be in bliss, and they're going to be regenerating the same type of cells. But if you're not authentic and you're not putting out this vibration, your cells are going, oh, there's disconnection. There's what? Dis-ease. And the more we think those thoughts, to focus on the disease, focus on the disconnection, unconsciously, we attract more of it. It's that simple. It's not easy. Can you hear it? Why? Because it takes work. You see, the easy and effortless? No. Easy and put your work in toward what you want. Because when you're working toward a goal, toward something you've chosen, it's not work. That's play. That's the key thing. When I go to meditate, that's play. When I go take up my mala beads when I walk and I'm doing my affirmations, that's play. I got to play in the mountains with my mala beads. Now, some of you kinky people would have thought something about that. But it's incredible when you're walking and you're doing your prayer affirmations as you're walking, and there are deer and fox, and there was an owl. That was incredible. I just stopped, and I stared at the owl, and I stared at the owl. And then I realized it was a ceramic owl. It was on the top of this chimney on this beautiful house, and I said, that owl's not moving. And then I realized, oh, there is still some Polish in Lee Wolak. My father would be proud. Fear feeds our need to be accepted. And when we are accepted, we no longer exist. Did you hear that? Fear feeds our need to be accepted. And when we are accepted, we no longer exist. Because when we're trying to be that person that will be accepted, we've lost our authenticity, we've lost our true identity, and we cease to exist in consciousness. We've buried who we are. And that's when we get into depression. That's when we get into fear. That's when we get into pain, because we're not living the life we have come here to live. So this idea of faith comes in, because we talked about asking, and then there's the part where it's about doing the work. That's the prayer, that's the affirmation, that's the gratitude work, that's the forgiveness work, that's all of that. That's the work, that's getting clear. That means every day you're doing that work toward what you're asking, toward what you've decided. And you do it out of what? You do it not out of hope. Hope is useless. Because if you are hoping for something, you will always be hoping for something. Hoping and wanting are the same thing. And have you ever heard of a wanting man or a wanting woman? They're still wanting. You've got to declare, I have it now. You have to live from the place of already having it, knowing it. So faith is knowing that the work is bringing the result now. It is beyond question. People say, I'm doing the work, and you look at him and say, is it demonstrated? And he says, no. Well, it's probably not. It's going to this. Then you don't have faith. You don't believe that there's a creative process in you that's driving this. You believe that you don't know if this is empty words. And the idea is you got to test this. You got to test this over and over again on little things at first. And then you start building and building and building to when the bigger things come into your life at the level of consciousness where you are now. Yes, it's a challenge, but you go back to what you've seen in the past as your successes, and you re-implement the same thought process, the same belief process, the same spiritual practice. And as you do that, you will come up above, because the challenge was there to raise your level of consciousness. You see, there is never a challenge we get that's not about making us more aware. Everything is about making us more aware. And when we embrace that everything makes us more aware, there's nothing that's bad. That was good. I didn't plan to say that, but that really came out good. When you are aware that everything is about raising your awareness of your oneness, nothing is bad. And to label it as bad means I don't want to feel oneness. Because the idea is, how can you look at anything and see that it's raising you to oneness and say it's bad? And I don't care how horrific it was. Some of the greatest people, Immaculata, and I don't remember her name, but she was in Africa when the Hutus and the Tutsis, or the Tutsis and Hutus, I don't remember the names of the tribes. Does anyone? There was a genocide going on. And she literally hid in this small bathroom, like 6 by 6, with 5 other women. And they were there forever. And there was outside, there was this great big bureau. And it was hiding the door to this bathroom. And the people would come in. The people who wanted to massacre her would come in every now and then. They couldn't make a sound. That's what they lived. And this woman, Immaculata, she wrote a book that's incredible. She talks about how her whole family was butchered. Was absolutely butchered. They were macheted to pieces, brutally. And that's what happened to about 1 million people. This is in the 90s, so this is recent. And yet, she came out every day. She did prayer, and she prayed to forgive. She prayed to see God. And what happened was she was able to transcend the hatred, and now she's speaking all over the world about forgiveness. And how she had to look at these people who were once her neighbors that killed her family and say, I forgive you. There's something greater in you than what's being shown here. That woman is a saint because she's living saintly principles. And what are saintly principles? She made a decision to live in love. She made a decision not to let fear of the past and what might be control her life. Now, I'm going to venture to say, I'm going to take a chance that none of us are facing having to stand in a 6 by 6 foot room and worried about being macheted to death. And if anyone here has that problem, please call out for help right now because we'll be glad to come over and help you. But think about that. And that's just one example with her. And yet there are other people who have had unbelievable testimonies of the same type of thing because they had a faith that there's a power and a presence greater than them that they could turn to, and that power and presence existed within them, and as it existed within them and they turned to that, they could change the experience of their life. I want to say to you that whatever your challenge is in this moment, there's no one that's going to fix it but you. We can help you, support you. We can't help you, but we can support you in seeing your truth and seeing your light. My wife gets up here and says she's a cheerleader. No, she's not a cheerleader. She doesn't bring any pom-poms up here or anything like that. But what she is, she's here to support you. I'm here to support you. The members of this community are here to support you. By not listening to your story and saying, oh, poor baby, they're here to support you by saying, what's your truth? You're one with God. You're infinite. You can rise above anything. How can I see that truth for you so you can take a step in the direction of reclaiming your power? That's what being in oneness is. That's what being a community is. It's about knowing that truth and feeling that truth and seeing that truth. Because in our deepest, darkest moments, I don't know about for you, but I always turn for help. Because you see, when I turn for help, I'm not turning to something outside of myself. I'm turning to another aspect of God that I know that I'm one with. You see, that's the idea of what oneness means. It means that everything is interconnected. So if I turn to Jean for prayer work, or I turn to my prayer partners for prayer work, or someone in the community, I'm only turning within to the divine that they are and the divine that I am. And in fact, I'm turning to the God that I am. So I'm not weaker, I'm actually stronger. Because why? I've recognized oneness. See, we've been brought up by our egos to see that we're all separate. We're not separate. We're here on a journey together. And on that journey together, we really have only one choice. I choose love. And for you, I choose love. And for the world, I choose love. And I will do the best I can to live in love. And if I fall, don't judge me. Reach out and give me a hand. Because if you fall, I'll reach out and give you a hand. Because that's why we're here. We're here together to raise our level of consciousness and change the world. We are that powerful because we are God in expression. Let's go within. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.